Good.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back again to Jackson Grant LinkedIn Live. Yay! So today is going to be the last episode of Diversity and Inclusion LinkedIn Live. So these past 2 weeks, we get through the topic gen gap at workplace, cross cultural at workplace. Also today it will be women at workplace, embracing the Barbie spirit for success. So today, as usual, we have Alexander with us.
Scan. See everybody else.
Again.
Scout can.
Yeah, from this view, you look like Ryan Gosling somehow.
I think a lot of people would disagree with that.
Okay. So and today we have Monica, gentle Barbie.
Hello, everybody. So I'm a recruitment consultant at Jackson Grant Recruitment. I'm working in recruitment for six years now. I've seen a lot of things when it comes to gender gap, and it would be very interesting to talk about it.
And a part-time Barbie.
And a part-time Barbie. Yeah, my friend
She's
Barbie.
She's very gentle, right? Okay.
Who else have we got with us?
Hyundai.
Yes, me
Barbie
again. Barbie Nuts from Gen Z last episode.
Okay. So thank you so much, everyone who is joining us today. And of course, today we're gonna run through the agenda, of the day. First, it will be, to discover how women's role at workplace and how have evolved over the year. Second one will be explore the challenge faced by women in the workplace. Third one will be explore the concept of inclusive workplace that value the diversity. Lastly, hear about the initiative to empower young women in their careers, and learn ways to support gender equality at workplace. So for the first one, we're gonna run through discover how women's role at work have evolved over the years. So this one is going to be I would like to to talk about this one because personally I am a history student before. So like to talk about women roles in the history, back in I don't want to take too long in this, but back then to Victorian age, for example. I mean, women in workplace, we have always been there, we have always worked, but at the beginning it's just the small housework, and also just domestic service for wealthy household. And when it comes to industrial revolution, we are in the industry as well, but still because the industrial revolution is still what can I say, heavy industrial work. So back then I would think that male, it will be still male dominated industry, I would say. And most of the people will assume that women will be kind of disadvantaged around this age. However, the big change, they come after World War. Women are recruited to, or voluntary to do the paid work in order to, to work instead of why all the men they are going to the war, and also the war also effort to create a new job for women as well. And after that, women have to take place a lot in workforce. And I think the real game changer for women at workplace is the birth control innovation in 1960, where the women that have the opportunity, to control the childbearing, and their career, allow themselves to choose the conception, the plan, plan to have the baby, plan to work, So I think this is a big innovation for women, and have, what can I say, change make a big change in the industry so far for women.
If we fast forward a bit then, I mean, what's happened in the last 10 years for women in the workplace and how have things changed?
I think after this, it's just because we start to be more independent, when it comes to work, and we can choose to be, what can I say, to work or to become mother because of this, after this innovation, right? And I don't think at this time we have choice because back then it's just like we don't really have choice. We just like, okay, we work until we have a baby, but now we can choose when we can have the baby. So
But I think it's also worth mentioning that women have been working for ages, for always working basically. It's just that this work was not paid basically. Domestic work, such as being a housewife, being a mother, it's also work that today we paid nannies for this. We paid cleaning ladies, right? Women were like have been doing this work for ages, right? So they were typically in this role. It's just that it wasn't really remunerated, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But now I think like a woman, as far as I can see, for example, like from the number, like before World War, the woman in workplace like was approximately 23%, and then after the World War, it increased to 46%, like of the women who is in like what can I say, like workforce. So I think now mostly I haven't worked on the statistic of like how many women like currently in workforce right now, but it's very in general. I mean now if we talk to our friends, like most of our friends still in work, like not like like a housewife, but like full-time work.
I read an interesting statistic. This was in the Deloitte Human Capital report, which said that since COVID is sort of coming toward an end, that 50% of women in the workforce feel more stressed than they did before COVID. Now, actually, when this was said in like a big meeting, half the women in the audience said, no, that I don't feel like that at all. But I know that a lot of COVID helped women to get back to being mothers, be with their children a lot more. And a lot of women didn't want to sacrifice that again when it comes to come back to the workplace. So I think, as the most recent innovations, I guess, in working for women is the option. Can I work hybrid? Can I work from home? Do I have to be in the office? And I think there's still not a clarity for women on what is acceptable and what they should be doing. I mean, a company should look at all options, but for a small company like ours, it's fine, we can have that, but we've got a company of thousands of people. Whew, it's a really hard and tough decision.
Let's not forget that when all the sexual revolution started in the birth control, this is when Barbie came into the scene as well.
Yeah,
Saying that we can be whatever we want.
Yes, I think it's pretty much the same time. Like, I think Barbie was invented in like around the end of like 1950 or something like that. So and when we talk about the Barbie, I think the reason that we choose the Barbie to be, what can I say, like the main idea of this life is because when we were young, like we've been like, I mean, Barbie is the representation of woman can be anything, can do anything they want, right?
I want to ask a controversial question, and maybe I'll ask Hyundai for this one because we haven't heard from you yet.
Okay.
And I'd love you guys to share your opinion as well. But you say that it says women can be everything, can be anything that they want to be. Is that strictly true?
It is for me personally.
I think for me it is too. Like we didn't choose like to be everything, right? But we just choose like maybe like one or two things that we want to be, and we just can do it.
So when people say you can have a very successful career, you can have a family, you can have children, you can have an active social life, you can have a good work-life balance. Do you think realistically it's possible for a woman to have all of this option?
I think it depends on each people, because balance for like each people is different, right?
So I mean that'll take us later on into the conversation, but I mean the next part we want to look at is exploring the challenges faced by women in the workplace. So I mean, what are some of the challenges that you face? I mean, Monica, we were talking about this earlier. What would you say are some of the challenges that you face?
If I could refer to what we were talking about before, I would say we could probably be anything, but we probably cannot have everything. So anything yes, everything no. And if you choose to have everything, the thing you have everything, then you will hit the wall at some point, or someone will suffer, something has to suffer. It's just like, the day only have 24 hours, and ideally you want to sleep.
For sure.
In Thailand, it's a hobby as well.
Right? So I guess, you probably can't really have everything. But when it comes to challenges, I think there are still so many. Well, in a more like, on a personal level, as a consultant here in Bangkok, I think the first thing you face as a woman, especially in this business, is that you have to face, you want to speak to decision makers, right? So you have this very, very shocking experience when you start to go to different networking events, and you go to women in business, and then you go to all the chamber events, for example. Women in business, you meet a bunch of lovely, lovely women. They're all great. A lot of them are in, leadership functions, of course. But mainly you tend to speak with women who are managers, maybe, who are not necessarily decision makers or less decision makers during these meetings, basically. You go to chamber events, there are plenty of guys in their 40s and 50s, and here you are, you are like you have absolutely nothing to do with these guys. And I think like it's a human nature to kind of hang out with people that are similar to us. And you find yourself in the middle of these meetings and you just feel there's no connection between you and these guys, and it's very intimidating. So I think this is like a first challenge to, as a woman, find your place, find your spot in the world of men, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can understand your point, because when we join the event, we will have people in a different level. I mean, top executive level, and then but when it comes to like women event, I mean, we seem to, what can I say, like we don't have much boundaries to be worried about. I mean, we just like talk like women talk. We don't really care if she is like CFO from the company. We just like have a casual conversation. But when it comes to like the event that is just like male top executive level, we kind of like have a little bit of boundary, and we just feel like afraid, like how can we talk to them, how can we make the conversation. I think that's the challenge we are facing.
What are some more challenges that women face in the workplace?
I think also talking about like maternity disruption, I would say, like, and the limit choice of women, because of course, like we want to fly high in our career. When we start fresh and young, like middle 20s, we have a lot of energy. We want to achieve everything. And at some point, we just, we met our lovely partner, and at some point we want to have a child. And when we start to think about, but what if we have a child? Do we have to leave everything behind? What would I be missing if I left my career for like 1 or 2 years from my child? And of course, we need to be with them because they are a baby. And once you come back to your career, there is the feeling of like FOMO, like fear of missing out. Like what have I missed in the company? Of course, like for example, if we start the career in the same year, and then we are flying high, and then at some point like, oh, I need to pause for the maternity leave, disruption, and then Alex is just like fly high like this. And when I come back to my career, we are not in the same, what can I say, like level anymore. And then it just now it comes to the choice for women, like what if I choose to have a baby, or I choose to pursue my career, to be successful in my career. This is like what can I say, like limit choice for us.
Yeah, and also like when I think when women and men, they are like competitive to each other, right? And then I think women have to like tend to be like more proof than a guy, and then they have to be like more strong, more like aggressive to show their ability or something like that. And then when they win or they get achievement, and then other people just assume like, oh, because she's a bitchy, no one can go again. yeah. We just try to like put more effort. I don't know, like somehow.
But do you think that's like unique for our industry, or you think that's the same across most workforces?
Pretty much, I think same.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I also, like when it comes to maternity leave, I remember like I had a lot of colleagues and friends in my previous workplace that that they were moms, they had children, and they were young moms. And I remember very well in my previous company there was a colleague who worked for us for like 6 or 7 years, and she was wonderful recruiter, wonderful leader. But she was out for like over a year, almost 2 years on maternity leave, and then her son was sick. So obviously she was the one taking care of her son most of the time. And and she got comments from some colleagues that oh, so we've been working here practically like years, even 7 years, in practice just 5. So some, they didn't want to recognize that this period when she was off was like actually her work time, right?
Yeah.
So and it starts with words. It starts with this perception of a woman in a workplace that like bad things can happen. And yeah, I think this is why this kind of discussions are very important. I think to realize the problem.
And also, just to add the topic from Pigeon said that when we went to the event and then we just feel like we have boundaries to go to talk with the top management guys and the male, right? And somehow like they just, and I think ourselves as well, we just feel like we need to be more humble when we like go straight to them. Like, how do I get into them? And do I need to be more humble so they can listen to me or something like that?
But I know this is like the challenges faced by women, but that is an equal challenge by men. I think just the difference is it's easier for a man to overcome that because, once you've said 3 or 4 words, it might be a different reaction than if a woman says 3 or 4 words. But that is like a confidence thing, not just it's a man versus a woman.
Yeah.
But I think like there's other big challenges that women face. So we, talking about having children. Well, women are having children later and later in their careers than they've ever done in their lives. So like go back to like my mother. She gave birth to me when she was like 20. Right? That was the norm. You have you get married 18, 19. You have your kids in your early 20s, and maybe you go to work. Like I remember when I was a kid, my mom didn't work until I was about 6 or something, and then she went back to work.
Yeah.
But now you're expected to have, I don't know, in different countries, it's different amounts of maternity, but Thailand is not great for maternity leave. And then the government has to subsidize that.
Yeah.
And then the majority of very successful career women, they then give their baby to a nanny, which means they then have a detachment from the child, maybe. And I think that's a huge challenge for women. But I also think like society plays a big challenge for women too, because they're saying you can be successful, and once you're successful, then you can have kids. But the reality is, once you're past your mid-30s, it's a lot more difficult biologically to conceive than if you're younger than that. So I think, it's a bit like serious topic, but I think that's a big challenge.
And also, let's not forget that this disruption doesn't end with the maternity leave, right? Because once the baby is in your life, I mean, obviously the baby gets sick, the baby has needs, and it becomes really tricky to take some. And men, I think today, because we have to give justice to men, they do help a lot, right?
Oh, thank you.
But at the end of the day, I feel like for most of my colleagues and friends, the final responsibility lies on them. And we were also discussing this morning when it comes to challenges, that I feel that women, apart from having all this kind of ambitions and like being a perfect mom, being a perfect employee, etc., they also bear this mental charge for a lot of things in their life when they have to think about a lot of things. Like how do we manage her cleaning, how do we manage her household, how we manage the shopping list. Okay, the husband can help once you give him the shopping list, right? To actually figure out what is missing in the fridge. This is another part.
I'm quiet because I'm heavily outnumbered.
You can argue.
There's been a call for a lot of gender equality, and it's a lot different now than what it was in the past. I mean, when I was a kid, my dad would never ever in a million years go shopping for groceries. But then later on in my life, when I was a teenager, late teenager, he used to go all the time with my mom, or on his own, So things have changed. Okay, so moving forward then, we know that there's a discrepancy in gender pay gap. What are some of the strategies that we can do to try to make women earn on par with what men are earning?
So I think like the Monica just mentioned about like transparency in the payment, I would say, on the salary, because like you mentioned the company in Poland.
Yeah, so it was for one of my former clients. So it was actually a huge international company, not a Polish one. And I remember it was one of the most interesting examples how you can handle your salary, range in the company. So they made it completely transparent. Like within teams knew exactly what the team is earning. So let's say if the sales team is like between 40 to 45k euro a year, nobody would exceed 45. This small range was only for people with different like level of experience, and this was what we were communicating to candidates as well on the recruitment level. And I literally had someone taking a huge pay cut to adapt to this team because they wanted to be a part of the team. And this can be a way. Basically, there's no confusion. How much people are earning, and that's I think one of the strategies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think, and now because most of the company, as a recruitment business, we have seen a lot of the company, they offer the salary based on what the candidate currently earn. So I think, like to bridge the gap and just to make everything to become in the same standard, I would suggest like, like you pay them based on the responsibility. Okay, the level of this, position is at this, and the level of this position is at this salary range. So, you just like avoid the confusion of, like maybe I get paid less than Monica, or maybe I get paid less than Junda. This is like probably, what can I say, like pay them by the function of their work.
Yeah, I mean, to go into a little bit more detail on that point, what I would say is that if a woman and a man has a different pay grade to begin with, if you're basing your salary sort of, proposal on a 20% increase, you're never going to catch the man, so because the man's already earning more. But I think this is quite unique to Southeast Asia and in particular Thailand, where a lot of HR professionals, they make an offer based on what the candidate earns. But if you look at the Western world, you look at the US, you look at the UK, they're not actually allowed to say what the candidate earns. They have a budget and they're able to offer the candidate according to that budget. And if that's a 80% increase on their salary, then so be it. And that can help to bridge the gap. But something that I'm really proud of as a company, and I think we say this a lot, but it's something we should be proud of, is that we predominantly work in manufacturing, engineering, logistics, supply chain, industries which are dominated by men. Yet 52% of all our placements last year were female. So I think that's something to be really proud of. But in Thailand, I don't see that big a gap in pay unless you go to the top levels. For the mid-level, for junior management to mid-level, I think women are paid. I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong, but I think women are paid on par with men.
Yeah. I mean, you need to analyze the data, of course, and I think that this is a complex subject because you need to take into account an organization and then industry and then, But I think the reason why we're still talking about the pay gap is that globally, if you look at how women are educated, what is their access to education in general, many countries where women are still forced to get married when they're teenagers, right? And it still happens a lot. Many children are forced to work, when they're small and everything. So I guess this is, a huge gaps that we need to close and, in today's world. But then I think I was reading also a report of Word, one of the big financial organizations, and I believe already 5-6 years ago, there was only I think 5 or 6 countries in the world that actually introduced the law for the pay equality. Only 5 or 6 countries in the world, and today we are maybe at 10 or 15 countries in the world that actually has a legislation that takes care of that, right? So there's still something to do because the legislation is the first step.
Okay, so let's move forward then. So how do we explore the concept of inclusive workplaces that value diversity and women in the workplace?
Okay, for me personally, I didn't have experience to work in many places much. Personally, I don't see much difference. Like for example, you treating me when you talk with me, exactly, I can feel that, and I do treat other people in the same way, not seem just a different gender, male or female.
this is the way, right? I mean, that's why you feel comfortable, because like the management creates the environment when you just feel equal and right and comfortable at ease. But
By design, right?
Yeah.
Because I've worked in companies where it's been highly competitive, and it's gone to the point where it goes past work, and then you've got men being like very like aggressive and bragging, and I can see that then women don't feel comfortable about that. So I hope that you guys see we've tried to create an environment where everybody's the same, and that doesn't matter if you're male, female, gay, lesbian, bisexual, or whatever. Everyone should be treated the same.
And unless you have any recommendation for the big corporation, of course we are a small business. I think it's like very easy to bridge the gap, and because we are kind of like in the small community, I would say. So I mean the behavior changing, it can be easier to control. When it comes to a big corporation, do you have any suggestion to HR professional?
Yeah, I mean the key for every big organization is it's not one person's job to tell everybody that you're an inclusive and diverse company. It should be something that comes initially from the top in conjunction with HR, and then they educate the line managers, and the line managers educate their staff that there's a tolerance for having diversity in there, and we promote that, and it should be part of the company values. But you've got to also realize that if it is a substantial change in the organization, it takes time. But as long as you put the right measures in and you show that you're not doing this as a fashion, you're doing it because you actually care, then by being authentic and being genuine, I think people see that, and then they follow the same track, and then from there you're able to start to really bridge the gap from having an organization which is a bit disjointed to having one which is very inclusive. Okay, so the last thing that we'll move on to today is talking about how do we empower young women in their careers, and how do we support gender equality in the workplace.
Yeah, I think first thing first, I think you need to create the safe environment for women, because of course, like for us, I mean, as a business, we are a small team, and then we can be very open. I feel very safe to be in the company, to be honest, because mostly I think it's half, our team.
I think it's more women than men.
Yeah,
look
yeah.
how outnumbered I am.
Yeah.
But not in the leadership roles.
Yeah.
Okay. This is where it gets tricky, right? Because if somebody just looks at this from the outside in, looking from the outside in, they see the people who are running this company as Richard and Alex, who are two men in, well, I'd say late 30s for me and early 40s for Richard, right? And then they might think, well, there's no way that we can bridge that and become part of the leadership.
Yeah.
Now, it's a bit different because we're the company owners, but for the next level down, I don't care if it's a man or a woman. And I actually, if someone can rise up to be a partner, then it doesn't matter either.
Sure.
But I can understand how people would see it as, oh, it's the white guys that run the top of the business, and that's a challenge. But I also think that we shouldn't feel bad about that either. There's a lot of shaming towards men at the moment, which is in society. We said, we speak to some clients now, and they're actively saying we don't want men in the shortlist. And as a man, I'm like, okay, but I always feel like the best person should get the job. However, we should give opportunities to different genders and diversity in the workplace, but ultimately you should be making the best decision for the company, not to follow a trend. So I can hear what you're saying there. It's tough.
I'm teasing you, of course. I mean,
I know.
I can't help myself. But I had two different cases in the past with one of my clients. In both big production companies, and I remember that one of them was a huge international company. They were looking for young engineers, and they said from scratch, we were 50% women, 50% men. And we had to make a huge effort as a team to find these engineers because there are not that many of them. But it's maybe it has like pros and cons. But I think a good thing is like you're really looking to like give this opportunity to women. This organization, you will feel great because it's diverse, because it's mixed, and like it's a good place for you. On the other hand, I had a client as well who I sent him a couple of candidates, and some of them were women, and they said, oh, essentially I'm not like against it, but there are only men in the department, they will feel weird. And this is where I need the management to say, well, we need to change that. I mean, it can't be just men, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it can be, of course, but
Yeah.
this is the mentality, right?
Yeah.
Well, you have to start with something. So
But it's also like not for me, but it can be scary. I mean, like I'll share a very quick example, which is like in England, let's say if you're a manager, a woman would not tell you the innermost details of their health.
Yeah.
Whereas in Thailand, say it in the right way, but I will know, when somebody's on their period. And I won't just know when they're on their period, I will know if it's heavy. And like this is a scary thing for a man. Right? Genuinely it is,
Yeah.
because like one thing I could say could be taken out of context, and then I'm in a world of trouble.
Yeah.
And a lot of men would just say, actually, let me just not even deal with this. Let's not even talk about it. And you're laughing because it's for a woman, it's like, well, this is biology. This is.
Yeah.
But if I go back to when I was a kid, I was remember when my mum was on her period. This is like weird, I know. But she would come into the house with a brown paper bag, which would have her tampons in or whatever it would be.
Yeah.
And she would be so private about this type of thing.
Yeah.
So, if you think about it, the leadership, a man's in their mid to late 40s or 50s, this is a new world for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's scary for the man. And obviously for a man, sometimes they don't want to show weakness. So it looks like they don't care.
Yeah.
But it's actually not that they don't care, it's that they're scared.
Yeah. They don't really know how to cope.
How to cope with the information.
True.
Yeah.
But I think this is why diversity is so important and so enriching as well, because we have to say it, we all have our women's word and the men's word, and they're two different words, right? And personally, I love the evenings when I can just say to my husband, just go with your friends. I don't want to see you this evening, bye. And I go with my friends, and it's great. And there are two separate words, but when we meet, we have to find a common ground. We have to kind of go
Find
down.
something neutral.
Yeah.
But it's about
Find something
respect
new. Yeah.
and consideration.
Yeah.
And if you can give that respect and consideration, then I think you can create a successful environment.
Yeah.
But it's when, like, for example, there's the guy jokes around the coffee.
Yeah.
Okay, and we all know what you're going to say,
Yeah.
and then sometimes it can border on
Yeah.
being unacceptable.
Yeah.
But some guys, they just think it's funny,
Yeah.
but it's not
It's not right.
for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's where like companies have got to stamp that type of behavior out and just say, look, you're a man, do that in your own time, just don't do it in the company's time.
Yeah, and also like respect in the workplace, I think is very important. I think we should like normalize when women or female get achievement. Don't think just like, oh, because like top management adore her or something like that, that's why she got like reward or something like that. Just I mean, we can do the good job too,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
like maybe
Because
like
of our skills.
the hard job or
Yeah.
different tasks, we can do that too. Just
And just last but not least, I would like to share, for young women in their career, I have my success story with my candidates. She is like, 50 something woman in engineer, which is like, yeah, we know that it's like, sounds like a male dominates like industry. I just placed her, as a kind of like director of product development. And she's just, she's tough woman. She's like, very, what can I say? Like she has the ambitious to, to achieve her goals in her career. So I just want all the girls out there to believe that you can really do it. Even like, you are 50 or something. I heard some candidates, they're just like, yeah, maybe I'm too old for this role. Maybe because I'm a woman, I won't be this and that. So I just want everyone to, like to embrace like who we are, and just achieve your goals, like no matter what. I just want everyone to believe in themselves, and don't make it like I am a woman, maybe I cannot do it. You can. There are like a place for you at work for sure. So, and I think things like now these days has changed like drastically compared to the Victorian age or whatsoever. So we are in the age that we can step up and be can embrace the equality at work. So feel free to
I-
believe in yourself.
I'd add as well to that is that you don't have to be something that you're not.
Yeah.
Like, because I heard like Jundai saying like, oh, you have to be bitchy, or people think you're bitchy, and even you said it then, June, you have to be tough.
Yeah.
But I also think that's a perception from females that they think they have to act like that because they have to act like men. But the whole point of what we're talking about is bringing diversity in the workplace, and actually, you can act like a woman.
Yeah.
You can think like a woman. You can make decisions like a woman. It doesn't mean that you have to act like a man.
Yeah. I mean, I understand, but like my point is just like to for someone who's scared, like back off themselves for that. But if you would love to be like a housewife, like there's no problem. It's your choice. We totally respect your choice of life, of course. But when it comes to like if you want to achieve something, you want to be independent, successful woman, you can be too. So be whatever like like it's up to you. It's your choice.
Okay, well, I think that brings us to the end of today's topic. I don't see any questions. In the background, we got any
Actually, we
questions?
got a question from Kunjiraporn. She asked, could you please share your experience regarding today's policy that you believe ensure equal treatment of men and women?
Okay. Do you want to take that one, June? Policies?
The policies. So I think it's what we mentioned like during life is like to try to bridge the gap in terms of like sari. We can offer the sari based on the what can I say, the responsibility of position or the function of the work rather than what they earned before. Because yeah, of course, like maybe for example, Monica earned like 50K previously in her job, and then Alex earned like 70K before in his previous job. And then when you try to to bridge the gap, so and like the new function, you probably put the salary at like 100K. And if you find Monica as what can I say, like a suitable candidate for a role, feel free to offer her 100K, because it's like the salary that you set for the responsibility. So this is how you can bridge the gap, because maybe Monica got like underpaid before. So I think maybe this is like the thing that I could suggest.
Yeah, I just add in terms of like policy itself, you might have to have something documented and written down.
Yeah.
So in terms of like the equal treatment, you might have to have a diversity policy, which says what your intent as a company is when it comes to diversity. There are plenty of examples of this online if you need to look for it. And then you just, let's say you take a template offline, and then you put in your company's unique selling points or your company's unique things about them, and then you can have a very structured diversity policy. And I think every company nowadays should have a diversity policy.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope that answers your question, Kunjiraporn. So thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
Thank you, June. Thank you,
Thanks, Alex.
Jundai.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I guess we'll see you in a couple of weeks for the next LinkedIn Live.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.